Okay, thank you. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to go on mute just now, that'd be fabulous. My name is Kirsty Livingston, and I'm the Head of Membership Services and Strategic Partnerships at IOD Scotland. And this is one of a number of webinars that we're running with our members, delivering their area of expertise. And today's one is around why now is the time to invest in your digital strategy. And I'm delighted to welcome Rennie Looper, who's a social media trainer, a strategist, and speaker on digital growth opportunities. And he's also a valued member of the Highlands and Islands Committee at IOD Scotland. So thank you so much for that, Rennie, for joining us today. So I'm going to record the session. We'll also share the slides and Rennie's contact details at the end. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the chat function. If you want to ask questions or any observations you have, please put them down in the chat box along the way. And Rennie will pause throughout the session and we'll come to some of the comments together on that. So thank you so much, and I'll hand over to you, Rennie. Thank you.
Fantastic. Kirsty, thank you very much, and welcome everybody. Delighted to see so many people. Last night I've been busy researching everybody that was dialing in today. I had about 95 names, so it was a late night last night. And I was just wondering if people noticed that I've looked at their LinkedIn profile, because you obviously can tell if people looked at your LinkedIn profile. You can switch it off, but I chose not to do it because I'm quite interested to see who took action. And actually, Dave Anderson, straight away, I mean, 5 minutes after I looked at his profile, straight away I got an invite from Dave. I'd like to connect. And thanks, Dave, for that. A new friend, a new connection. Fantastic. Cool. Today, why now is the time to invest in your digital strategy. My name is Rennie Looper, and actually, I haven't asked Kirsty or Trish yet. Well, too late now, actually. But I've put a hashtag IOD webinar there, just to initiate some sort of tweets as well. So I know some of you are on Twitter. Some of you are on Twitter not using it. Some of you are on Twitter and very well using it. So if you're on Twitter, don't hesitate to use the hashtag IOD webinar. And I'll keep an eye, not just on the chat, I'll keep an eye on the hashtag IOD webinar as well, especially on Twitter. That works really well. And I'm going to talk about hashtags and the different sort of platforms as well. Right, a little bit of introduction about myself, a little bit of a promo, the promo slides. This is the one. My name is Rennie, and we've got a team in Inverness. We started with social media in 2006, when social media was not really on the horizon. Yes, it was, but not on the mind of many businesses. And over the years, we've worked with some nice businesses. We deliver presentations to various businesses, training and advice on social media strategy. We're based in Inverness, like I said, and we've got clients in mainly UK, actually, one in Malta, and in my own home country, the Netherlands as well. And I told you, Neil, this was coming up. Neil Urquhart, I know, is on the call from Gordon MacPhail. And I actually, when I saw your name on the list, Neil, I thought, oh wow, how long ago that we did a virtual whiskey tasting in Penroma. And I actually looked back in my archive on Facebook. That was 2009, Neil. You were way there. 11 years ago, you were already doing virtual tastings with us. So well done. That was the promo for you. This is the agenda that I have today. As promised, I've got a simple 5-step digital strategy for you. We're going to talk about social media, the place of social media in the organization. I'm going to talk about Google My Business and the search engine result page, page 1 of Google, basically. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. The ROI, and this is always a question that comes up, how do I measure the return of investment of social media? I'm going to share you some tips of social media and then a Q&A afterwards. I'm quite happy to deal with questions during the presentation. So if you put questions in the chat, and I know Trish and Kirsty are looking at the chat. So if there is a question that is related to the slide that I'm showing, I'm happy to deal with that. Now, the challenge I have, Kirsty gave me 45 minutes to talk about social media strategy. And that's going to be a struggle. So I'm going to talk fast, first of all. But also, this is not a session to get into the nitty-gritty of things. This is more, I think, about raising awareness, and especially now with the whole coronavirus, how customer behavior has changed, customer communication has changed. Well, actually, that happened before coronavirus anyway. But I think coronavirus has sped it up. Definitely, businesses are looking at more ways to make sure they can keep trading while customers have to stay home. I know I see that Neil and Ian put LinkedIn and YouTube. Thanks, Ian, for that. Actually, I'm going to feature YouTube as well. That's going to be one of my slides as well. Why a digital strategy? To be honest, if you don't have a strategy for social media, your return on investment will be not great, or rubbish actually, because when we deal with businesses, it's social media is done in a way that it works a bit like this. Ooh, we haven't posted a while on Facebook. Let's put this on Facebook. We haven't posted we haven't tweeted for a while. Let's tweet this. There's not really a thinking about it, and that's what I really emphasize. Social media needs to do something. Don't just do it for the sake of it. It needs to achieve something, and the only way to do that is have a strategy in place. And I mean, all the years that I've been involved in social media, I've seen 15 steps strategy, 12 steps, 7 steps. I like to keep it simple, to be honest. And I like the 5-step plan. Now, this slide will come back a couple of times during the presentation. And I'll discuss it in detail at the end as well. But basically, what this is about is you need to set yourself some goals with social media. Why are we going to spend time, resources, money on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter? What is the goal with that? Now, the first goal, of course, is sales. You want to create more sales out of social media. Sales is not a dirty word. However, it's a different type of sales. It's definitely not the hard selling bit that works on social media. That backfires big time. And I'm sure you all had connections that you connected with, and straight away the sales talk is going to be thrown at you. And to be honest, I unconnect or disconnect with them because that's not what LinkedIn is about. The sale will come after you build a relationship, and that's not just social media. That is effect of running a business. We all are very we find it very important to build relationships with our clients, because when you build good relationship with the clients, they buy from you, and they keep buying from you. So sales is a good goal. That should be one of your goals, but it's not the only goal. There's brand awareness. Social media is fantastic to be in front of people that have never heard of you, but they're looking for your product or service. It's great for customer service. Some companies, ScotRail, for example, uses Twitter as a customer service tool, and the airlines before COVID-19, they if you're having a question about your flight is still going ahead, instead of sending an email, most people go to Twitter and try to engage with the company on Twitter. It's also a very good platform to find leads. A lot of you will have found people, recruitment, for example. You've got a job opportunity, you share that on Facebook, you share it on LinkedIn, and sure enough, people come to you with a job opportunity. Research is a biggie as well. Social media is fabulous to research your customers, research your competitors, because it's all open, you know, and especially Twitter and Instagram are very good for that, and LinkedIn. Traffic to website, now that's the biggest one. And just to give an example, most of your customers will not visit your website on a daily basis. Why would they? It looks the same every day unless you blog, but most customers will not type in your domain name in Google to check out your website. However, they're hanging out on LinkedIn, they're hanging out on Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram. So the simple principle of social media is a simple marketing principle. Be there where your customers are. Yeah. The next bit, and I would advise you actually to write those goals down with your team. Discuss it with your team. What is it that we want to achieve using social media? Because at the end, step number 5 is measurement. How are you going to measure what Facebook has done, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc.? So you write down some goals and see in a 6-month period if you actually were able to reach those goals. The next bit is audience. And again, that's a simple marketing principle. Who is it that you want to talk to on social media? Who are your customers? Are you B2C, business to consumer? Are you B2B? Are you both? And it's not just your customers that you can reach with social media. It's stakeholders, investors, journalists, potential partners, and especially now, you know, it's and not just now, it was beforehand anyway. It's working together with other businesses can actually achieve a lot more. Just to give an example for that, actually, we delivered a training session, and one of the delegates was a hotel owner he owns 5 hotels, pubs, restaurants, and everything. And he was on a training session with us because he said, the reason I want to know more about social media, because I had a meeting with my bank manager last month, and my bank manager was able to tell me I had a problem with the service in this restaurant and a problem with the bathrooms in this hotel because they looked at our social media platforms. And I told that story to David Taylor, that Alison well knows, works for High as well, account manager at High. He used to be a bank manager. And I told him the story. Bank managers are looking at social media. And David says, we always look at social media. And the reason is quite simple. I looked at your websites as well. Funny enough, every website says we're great. We have a fantastic product, a great team. Our prices are very reasonable. Buying from us is a great experience. Every website says that. Looking at your social media platforms, you get actually the true story. How are you dealing with negative comments on Facebook, negative reviews on Facebook, for example? How are you dealing with your team? Does someone get chocolate cake when it's their birthday? Do you celebrate your customers, all that sort of stuff? So that's where people, investors, stakeholders look at the true story, you know? This is your culture that you portray on your website, which is always a good culture. This is the culture that I see on your Instagram account, Facebook, etc. Okay, I'll come back to the 5-step strategy, but those are the 2 first main things that you need to think about. What is it that you want to achieve, and who do you want to target? I'll come back to the platforms after this. Benefits of social media, many benefits, and I'm not going to read that all up. You can see on the screens. I'll just highlight a couple of things. Well, sales is there again. Reputation management, I put it in twice actually because I think it's very important. People look at reviews, funny enough. Even in the B2B industry, business to business industry. And of course, if you're selling a product, and we probably all buy at Amazon. I can honestly say I've never bought a 3-star product or worse because, you know, I look at what other customers have said and I change my decision because of other people's experience in that. Yeah. And that's a biggie. I'll come back to reputation management. It's cost efficient. Social media is free, but it's not free in that sense. The investment is time, and I'll come back to that. It's great for building your brand loyalty. It's great for quick communication. No doubt your customers will will engage with you using Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. It's good for new customers, existing customers, etc. And insights as well. I think insights is very good as well. Right, I love this slide, and basically what it shows here is social media. Don't just let social media be done by the marketing department. I've got a strong feeling about social media should be part of the whole organization. And I know we've got a lot of people on the call. It's the IOD, senior level, CEOs, managing directors. You need to have a voice as well on LinkedIn, on blogs, on Twitter. Don't just let the marketing department deal with social media. I think you have a very, very important part to play in social media. And just to give you a local example, Hans Allianz Enterprise, I think she left now, but the previous CEO, Charlotte, she was on Twitter, and she was sharing where she's in Wick today, the next day she was in Murray, the other day she was in Shetland. She was this is not a person in an ivory tower, what most people think about CEOs, managing directors also. These are people that actually go out there, meet with people, interact with people, and share their knowledge and expertise. And I really feel strong about CEOs, managing directors having a voice by blogging, by having a Twitter account, and by having an active LinkedIn account. I think it's very important for the whole organization. Obviously, marketing has a role to play, and I've put there all the social media platforms that a marketing department will use and more. PR. I put some things in there for B2C. Amazon, for example, is very, very important for hospitality, TripAdvisor, forums, Trustpilot, and Glassdoor. I don't know if people have heard of Glassdoor, but Glassdoor is it's a social platform where employees and ex-employees share their experience about working at the business. And very often when you type in the name of the business, Glassdoor comes up because it's SEO optimized, it's search engine optimized. Like, what is your reputation on these things? And the last thing is sales and HR, using LinkedIn and Facebook for recruiting people as well. And again, coming back to the culture in the business, I speak to I do presentations for a lot of young people, students as well, who are looking for a job. And they actually look at, hey, there's a job opportunity in that business. Let's have a look at their Facebook, their Instagram. Can I see myself working in that business? Is that the type of business, the type of culture where I feel myself comfortable in? And I think that's very important for social media, to show people the culture. On your website, you say you're great. On social media, you show it, and that has much more of an impact. This is reality. Customers now expect very quick interaction. If people send you an email, if I send you an email, happy to wait today for you to come back. After 2 days, you start to think, okay, you might have missed it. Social media, if people send a message on Facebook, after an hour, they start to get twitchy, say, hey, I've not heard back from the company. And that puts pressure on the resources. And I'll come back in stage 4 of the 5-step strategy for that as well. Do you have the resources to deal with that? And I think that's very important. Social media is not just to promote your stuff. It's also a very important communication tool. And coming back to a customer quickly is not just, 3 years ago, people were impressed by a company that came back to them within an hour. Now it's sort of expected. And again, that puts pressure on the resources as well. Right, I'll start with Google My Business. Some of you might not know Google My Business, but the reason I'm starting with that is because it's becoming a very, very important element of your reputation on page 1 of Google. Google My Business is that bit on the right-hand side when you type in the business name and you see on the right-hand side the location, the street view, the photos, and the reviews. Opening times as well. And people respond to that. I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups, local Facebook groups, to see which businesses are open. And very often that question is posted in the Facebook group. Is this business open? According to Google, it says they're open, but I'm not quite sure. People actually put faith in Google for the opening times, for the telephone number, and all that. So Google My Business is free. It's the bit on the right-hand side that needs to be managed. It helps you to get found. It's essential for local search, and you appear above the organic results if you have a Google My Business. And I'll show you some examples of that. This is in the B2C. So this is page 1 of Google. When I type in a certain business name, and the red arrows that you see are social media platforms. So the first one is Facebook. So it's the second one. The third one is Twitter. Then Instagram. Then you see some YouTube videos, and there is another sort of platform, AC reviews on the right-hand side as well. This is page 1 of Google. This is where reputations are made and broken. So before you do social media, let's have a look. What is your reputation on page 1 of Google? And can you influence that in some way? And you can. And Google My Business is one of them. I hope the person doesn't mind. This is Fairpoint. I know they're on the call. Well, they were on the list to join. And the reason you shouldn't be worried, because you have 9 5-star reviews. So you're probably delighted that I've shown you this. So I did a search for Fairpoint, and I get the latest tweets on page 1 of Google. And the latest tweets was not 3 years ago, 8 hours ago. So you're active. Then I see your LinkedIn company page. I'll come back to that as well. And on the right-hand side, I see 9 reviews. So again, I can't emphasize it enough. Before you do social media, have a look. What is your reputation on page 1 of Google? If you're not using social media, then obviously your social media profiles would not come up on page 1. And I was working with an oil and gas business years ago, and they suffered from, when you type in the name on Google, old news came up from 2012, where they had to let go of 200 staff members. Came up on page 1. Not great first reputation. They said, how can we take that off? I said, you can't, that's someone else's content. The only way to remove it is to create your own content by blogging, being active on social media. Then that content will drop down to page 2, and at some point page 3. Nobody looks at page 2 or page 3. So being active on social media is not just great to communicate with your customers, potential customers, stakeholders, and everything. It's also good to influence page 1 of Google. Another example of that, and that's YouTube actually. I'll feature it when we come to it. So here are the social media platforms in detail. Facebook is the biggest platform out there, over 2 billion people. And Ian, I promised that YouTube come up. YouTube is actually the 2nd largest social media platform. Most people don't see it as a social media platform. But if I ask people who uses YouTube for their business, of a group of say 30 people, maybe 3 people, 4 people will put up their hand and say, yeah, I think we've got some videos on YouTube. When I ask the question, who is using YouTube, out of the 30, probably 28 people put their hands up. So a lot of customers use it, especially if you want to solve a problem. And if you can solve a problem, instead of writing a 5-6 page document about that, why not create a 2 minutes, 1.5 minute video about that? YouTube is very, very underused by a lot of businesses. I was delighted to see Score Diagnostics. I know they're on the call as well. They have a YouTube platform, a channel, sorry, YouTube channel, and they're uploading videos and everything. YouTube, 2nd largest social media platform, also the 2nd largest search engine. Google is obviously the biggest one. After that, it's not Bing, Yahoo, or whatever. YouTube, most people do search on YouTube. WhatsApp, okay, you heard it here first. WhatsApp is going to, now your website has links, has icons to Facebook, to Twitter, to Instagram maybe, and to LinkedIn on your page. Next year, you will have an icon, WhatsApp. WhatsApp for businesses is going to be big as well. And just to give an example, we work with a company in Shetland, Shetland seafood. Every day the fish comes in, the manager takes pictures of the fish that comes in, turns over the fish, and he makes the 360 photos of it. And instead of going to his desktop and email the pictures to international buyers, he shares that on WhatsApp to his group of international buyers in that sense. So WhatsApp has recently created WhatsApp for Business, which is separate from your personal WhatsApp, because most people will use WhatsApp in family or friends. There is a separate business WhatsApp, again, for easy communication in that sense. Yeah. I stayed in a hotel in Edinburgh last year. I was delighted that on my bedside table there was a little form where it says if you need room service, instead of dialing 0 for reception, WhatsApp us. Why would they do that? Now they've got my number and they can send me messages in that sense. I can unsubscribe, of course, but that's you need to think about GDPR. But you heard it here first. WhatsApp is going to be big for business. Instagram over 1 billion, especially if you're in the B2C sector. It's a very, very effective tool to find new customers as well. For B2B, it's a great tool to show the behind the scenes. I'm not going to deal with Snapchat or Pinterest. Twitter, I'm a big fan of Twitter, and I just remind you of the hashtag IOD webinar. I'll see if people have used that. And LinkedIn. I'm going to spend some time on LinkedIn as well. Cool. Facebook. Let's talk about Facebook first. Facebook. If you have 200, 500, 2,000 likes on Facebook, these are people that know about you. Not new customers. So the content that you're sharing on Facebook is you're sharing content that people that know about you. You don't need to convince them. They know you. They probably bought your product. They just want to keep in touch. They want to know what's going on. New products. Hey, I recognize that it's John's birthday. I dealt with John. Happy birthday, John. Is that informal engagement in that sense. However, it's great for targeted advertising, and I can't come back to that. Don't be overly promotional on Facebook. It's a different platform. I'm not saying you shouldn't promote your products there. It's this 80-20% rule. Be 80% social, 20% promotional. Show the company culture. I think that's very important on Facebook. And I can see that in my data as well. And I'll speak about data too. You always get data, you always get statistics back. If we post something about, hey, there's a new functionality on Instagram, we get a couple of likes, we get a few hundreds reach. But if I share it's Fiona's birthday and here is the cake and here is Happy Fiona, I get thousands of reach. So it's that personal engagement that people are looking for. Replying to comments and questions, I see this over and over again. Businesses are very promotional on the Facebook page. When people ask a question or leave a review, a 5-star review, they're not coming back. They're not responding in that sense. Reviews is very important, and it builds trust in that sense. Try Facebook advertising. Some of you probably have done it. It's it's not free. It's you have to pay money for it, but it's an inexpensive, effective way to reach your target audience. And my next slide is some screenshots of what you can do with Facebook. So you can target people on job title. You can target people on interest, where they live, and that could be the whole of the UK, that could be New York, that could be Amsterdam, that could be a certain postcode or postcodes in that sense. And the last bit is targeting people that visited your website. So you can actually target people that been to your website for a fact, and when they go to Facebook, they will see your advert on Facebook. And to make that even more effective, instead of targeting all website visitors, you can actually target people who visited a specific web page. So if people went to my website and they looked for digital audit, they went to the page digital audit, I can say to Facebook, if people went to the page digital audit and they go to Facebook, they should see an advert about digital audit and not about training or other stuff. So very, very targeted in that sense. Facebook, I think, is fabulous for B2C, but also has a role to play for B2B in that sense. Excuse me. Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter. Over the years that I've used Twitter, I managed to get in touch with people that I would never have gotten in touch with by sending an email. But I'm following them on Twitter. I keep in touch. I think it's a great way to find new customers. Twitter is about hashtags, but not too many. Use 2 or 3 if you must 4, but I like 3 hashtags. If you don't use hashtags in Twitter, you're only reaching your followers. If you want to reach more people, you need to use industry-related or area-related hashtags. You can use an advanced search to find specific mentions or of your business, your location, etc., etc. You can pin a tweet to a post and to the top. That's what I've done with my Twitter account. What I've put to my Twitter account is this webinar today. Because if I don't do that and I'll keep tweeting, it disappears in that sense. And very important, it's engaging with other accounts. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to look if people have used the hashtag IOD webinar, or am I the only one? No, Jennifer. I can always count on Jennifer. I'll show you that later. Jennifer and Kirsty as well. Oh, very good. Oh wow. And Donna, wow, okay, I'm not going to be distracted by that because that's what social media does. You get easily distracted, but I'll show you that later as well. If you do a search, and that actually on that subject, if you do a search on Google, you get SEO optimized websites on page 1. Yeah. If you do a search on Twitter, you get people who tweet about that subject. So see Twitter as a search engine for people. People buy from people. Yeah. Try it out. Do a search on a keyword, on a hashtag on Twitter, and find people that are tweeting about that subject. You can also find people that have a certain keyword in their bio. And I'll show you that as well. Right, we're almost there. Instagram. Oh yeah, just slightly go back to Twitter. I put on Twitter B2B and B2C. Over the years that I've been using Twitter, I think I started with in 2008. It says that on the screen, April 2008. A lot of consumers are using it to get in touch with businesses, but more and more businesses are now using it as well. So it's becoming very much a sort of a B2B platform as well. You can get you can reach and target people in the food and drink. There's a fantastic food and drink community on Twitter, oil and gas community on Twitter. That look for your sector. You'd be amazed who is talking about sharing their knowledge and expertise about this. Instagram, I would say, is very much B2C. Obviously I have an Instagram account because we're a social media business. That's where I share my the culture of the business, the events, etc., etc. But it's very much B2C. If you're in the B2C sector, you're selling products. It's very visual. It's photos. It's videos, etc. Your hashtags. If you don't use hashtags on Instagram, you're missing a big time. And hashtags can be up to 30. While on Twitter, 3, 4 as a maximum. Let's say 3. Hashtags on Instagram, you can put up to 30 if you must. I do usually about 10, 15 per post, but it depends on the picture that you have. But it's a great way to share your organization values and culture. And if you want to attract a young workforce, for example, they're definitely hanging out on Instagram. Right, the biggie, LinkedIn. And that's what I spent my time, hours last night, typing in people's names on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is about you. And that's a difference with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On these platforms, you're promoting the business. On LinkedIn, you're promoting yourself as a person, your knowledge and expertise. And because you're selling yourself, you're selling the business as well. People buy from people. Can't emphasize that enough. build your network, join relevant groups. I mean, I can't do this in 45 minutes. We normally do half a day LinkedIn training session. We do full days LinkedIn training session. I'm just going to highlight some things. Engage. Don't just feel you have to post every day. And then there's one of the questions in the chat as well. I'll come back to that. But engage with others. And for example, I see Jennifer almost every day on LinkedIn, not just sharing things, but interacting with other people. It's about being seen. If you're not being seen, why do we go to networking events before Corona? Because we want to be seen, we want to build our network as well. And that's what LinkedIn is. It used to be seen as a recruitment platform. If you're looking for a job, you have to go to LinkedIn. But more and more people are now using it to build their network. And I over the years, 5 years ago, for example, or probably 3 years ago, when I did LinkedIn sessions to businesses, a lot of people said, I'm a little bit afraid to be active on LinkedIn because my boss might think I'm looking for a new job because I'm active on LinkedIn. That was 3 years ago. Now, more and more CEOs, managing directors, directors themselves are actually encouraging their team to be active on LinkedIn, to be visible in that sense. Encourage employees to share content from the business page to their own account. I think that's really a missed opportunity as well. You know, if your business account has posted something, it should be shared with the people that work for that business. Maybe not all of them, but it should be shared. It's good practice in that sense. And link your profile to your LinkedIn company page. And that comes back to one of the questions that was asked by Donna before, I think. Should I have a LinkedIn company page? And on the right-hand side, you see the LinkedIn company page, our one. The LinkedIn company page you can compare to a Facebook page, but it's less effective in that sense, but it gives trust. It gives people trust if they see there is a LinkedIn company page. So Donna, especially for you, you obviously have your own profile. I would also invest a little bit of time. It doesn't cost a lot of time to set up a LinkedIn company page, to set up a company page where you can share company information that you then share with your own profile, because your own profile is much bigger than the followers of your company page. It gives people trust. It's like a website. You know, you can sell products on Facebook and all that sort of stuff, but if you don't have a website, people feel, you know, anyone can set up a Facebook page, but the website looks great, and it's all about trust. That's what you want to convey as well. I'm not going to read all of the sales statistics, but I love the last line. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. Now, this is not something I've made up. This is from the National Sales Executive Association. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. Not many people will go to your website and think, this is exactly what I need. I'm going to get my credit card out. I'm going to pick up the phone and buy straight away. People have a lot of opportunities to look at your Facebook page because the link is there on your website, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, etc. Once they trust you, once they like you, then they're going to buy. Make sure every touch point is a good one. And we actually worked with a business years ago that sold millions to the B2C sector. The sales went down dramatically. So they got us in, and we looked at first at their presence on Google. So we typed in the business name, and on the right-hand side, the Book My Business page, they had one review. Unfortunately, it was a 1-star review, and the customer said, I'm 45 pounds out of pocket. I bought this article, it never arrived. I sent an email to the business, they never responded. I advise you not to go there. Not a great start on page 1. Yeah. Then we went to the website. The website looks amazing. They spent a lot of money on the website. And there was this Twitter icon on the top right. So I clicked on Twitter. The latest tweet was 3 years ago. So now I have 2 warnings. Apparently, they don't send out the products. 3 warnings, actually. They don't send out the products. They're not responding to emails. And their latest tweet was 3 years ago. I don't think people would be enticed to buy that. That's why the sales went down. And what we did was the first thing you need to do is improve your reputation on page 1 of Google, and that means asking people for reviews, get that 1 star out of the way, and increase your own reputation on Google. Okay, there it comes back, the 5-step. So we talked about goals, we talked about the audience, and now the platform. So I showed you the platforms. So for example, in my case, if I want to sell more to existing clients, then Facebook is probably the best place for me, because the audience on Facebook is the people that like my company page on Facebook are the people that know about me. I don't need to convince them. And if they bought this product A, they might be interested in product B as well. Yeah. If I want to, however, reach new customers, I'm still going to use Facebook, but I'm going to do the target advertising to reach new people. But I'm also going to use Twitter for that, because on Twitter I can reach new people. If I want to get more traffic to my website, I'm going to blog. I'm going to write a blog post about this subject, keywords in it, post it on my website, and that's how I get more traffic to my website. If I want to share my knowledge and expertise, I'm going to write an article on LinkedIn. So what you can see, and I think this is the biggest mistake that a lot of businesses and organizations make. Okay, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Let's share the same content on all these platforms. And that the ROI of that is terrible. You need to optimize. This is the content that we want to share, and actually we should do that on Facebook. This goes to Twitter and this goes to LinkedIn. There's obviously some overlap. You would do multiple platforms for some posts, but not for every post. So really think about, what is my goal, who do I want to target, and which platform is better for that time, for that audience, for that goal. Step number 4 is resources. Who's going to do it? Because you need to have resources in place. Nothing worse than customers sending you a message on Facebook and you're not responding for 5 days about that. So you need to build in some tools for that. And Hootsuite, I'll show you that later on as well. It's a social media management tool where you can manage multiple platforms in one screen. And the last bit is measurement. How do you measure your sales, your brand awareness, your recruitment, your research, etc., social media? And that's where Google Analytics comes in. I'll come back to Google Analytics, and 5-step will come back as well. Now, on my screen, you will see something that we've been using and recommending actually people. You need a content calendar. Otherwise, if you don't have a content calendar, you can end up, like I said at the start, what am I going to post, because we haven't posted on Facebook for a while. You need to plan it. So what we have, and I'm happy to, for people that have an interest, we've got a social media, we produce a yearly calendar with the dates and the sort of the highlights. So it's Father's Day on Sunday 21st, is, don't forget, it's the World Gin Day, Saturday the 13th, and National Beer Day on Monday the 15th. Put in some highlights national, highlights in your sector, and highlights in your business. Someone's birthday, you're launching new products. Put those in the calendar, and then you can identify, hey, we've got a bit of a gap, a 2-week gap where there's nothing happening those 2 weeks, but we've got a lot of things to mention in that week. Maybe we can schedule it different in that sense. And do that for 3 months. Print this out and put it on the wall for the marketing manager and say, okay, what are we going to do with social media the next 3 months? I'm happy to share that. We've got it for the whole year. It's actually on my website. You can download it, and on Instagram as well. Almost there. Google Analytics. No doubt people have got Google Analytics on their website installed. Not many people look at it, and that's where you can see how much traffic is coming to my website. Is that coming from a Google search? If it's coming from a Google search, what have people typed in to find your website? Or is it coming from social media? And you can always identify if there is a spike in traffic. You can always research and find the reason. Was it a blog post? Was it a newsletter? Was it something on Facebook or LinkedIn? And that's what you can do there as well. Another way of measuring the return on investments is using another tool, Google tool, the URL builder. I see it a lot. You see it a lot on Facebook, actually, when you see adverts appearing. You can add some code to your URL that allows you to see how did people find that link when they clicked on it. And so, for example, if I that's the digital audit website, not only share that link without extra code, I can actually say, I've shared that link on LinkedIn in an article, and that article was about digital strategy. So when people click on that link in my Google Analytics, I can actually see where that came from. Because sometimes people share links and then you can't find out where it's coming from. So URL Builder is a very important tool in the tools that marketing managers can use, should use, to measure the success of their social media. I'm going to finish with two other platforms that I personally use myself, and some of you might be using as well. If you're in the B2B industry, on Google Analytics, for example, show you how many people visit your website, but obviously you can't find out who that is. However, if you use a platform like Albacross or Leadfeeder, you can find out which business has looked at your website. So this is a screenshot from Albacross. It's not free, you pay for it, you pay a monthly fee for it. But then you can find out, hey, this business has looked at my website. You can see how many pages they looked at. You can see how long they stayed on it, and how did they find you. Was it from a search, when it's an S? Was it direct? Was it social? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's Albacross and Leadfeeder in that sense. They're not free. However, they always offer 30-day free trials, and I've used it for my own website. Now, how do I use that? If a business has visited my website, great opportunity to find them on social media. So I might like the latest tweet. I might go to LinkedIn, follow their business, start to engage with the business, and find people that are the sort of decision makers in that company as well. Cool. I think this is one of my last slides, so we're almost there, and we're still awake. That's good to see. Hootsuite is, and I know some of you will be using that, Hootsuite is a place where you can manage multiple platforms in one place. So you can update, you can see your Facebook page, you can see your Twitter, your LinkedIn. And it's definitely a tool that I would recommend having a look at for marketing departments. These are my latest tips. And in the latest tips are actually some answers of people that have started to use the chat for questions. That's very good. It's not a numbers game. Don't worry too much about the number of followers. It's about the right sort of followers. I've seen Facebook pages that have 10,000 followers, but when they post something, 5 people have liked it. But basically that means, you know, of the 10,000 followers, 5 people have interacted. You better have 500 followers, but 15 or 50 people have responded to it, than 5,000. It's not a numbers game. It's trying to get the right audience. It's not a numbers game. One of the questions about quantity, the amount of posts, it's definitely quality over quantity. You don't have to post every day. Probably if you post every day, it's too much. Twice a week, three times a week on Facebook, more than enough. Sometimes I don't post on my own Facebook page for 2 weeks. If I have nothing to say, don't say it. However, if you have something to say, make it count. Quality over quantity. Do not disappear. Don't use Twitter for a while and then not use it for 2 years. An out-of-date Twitter account is doing much more harm than good. Use analytics, look at the data, look at the type of post that you share and the engagement and the reach that you get out of it. And customer service is key. Interact with people. If people post negatively about your product or service, and that day will come, deal with it. Don't ignore it. If you have a positive, which most of the time will happen, deal with that as well, and thank you. Cool. I need another coffee. 45 minutes. I think I more or less did it, Kirsty.
Yeah, well done. Thank you, Ray. That was amazing. Really, really great hints and tips. I'm sure everybody on the call has got something they can take away. And there's been lots of questions coming in. Do you want me just to start?
Yeah, that's fine.
Through them? So there was the question you mentioned about the volume of posts. How much is too much? Is that different on different platforms?
Yeah, I totally. And I saw that question coming up indeed. The amount of posts on Facebook, I would definitely not post every day, because if I like your page, I like your business, I like to see what's going on. It comes up on my news feeds. I like it today because I want to support you. I like that product. I like what you're saying there. It's great. Next day, I see another post of you. Okay, I will like it again. The third day, I'm starting to think, well, you know, I liked it yesterday, the day before. I'm not going to like it now. What happens then, because that's how those social media platforms do their algorithm, they look at, not everybody will see your post, only the most engaging people will see your post. And if you start to not engage with your post because you're posting too often, I won't see your post at all. And research is done on Facebook. With organic posts, so not paying, with your organic post, you're only reaching 5% of the people that like your page, 5% of your followers. So if you have if you have 1,000 followers, only 50 people will see it, for example. But if you post too often, that percentage will go down in that sense. So, but it's different on Twitter. Twitter is much more faster in that sense. Sometimes when I'm at an event, it's been a while ago now, but I might post 12 tweets in one day because I'm at an event, there's a great speaker, and I'm tweeting and all that sort of stuff. But if there's nothing happening, don't tweet. So it's not about the quantity. I really want to emphasize, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of the post. And again, that's where the calendar plays a role, you know. It's have that calendar and identify some gaps in your social media. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, that's brilliant. We've got another question here. Is a like or a share better for amplifying company posts on LinkedIn?
Yep, very good. Share is better. Share is always better. A like is good. Like is good. Commenting is better, but sharing is the best. Because what all these platforms do, there is so much content on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. No way you can absorb all that information, and no way you're actually interested in all that information. So all these platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, are actually looking, who are those people that you're most engaging with on LinkedIn, for example, because you like something, you share something, everything, and then you keep seeing their post in that sense. So a like is good, a comment is better, but what you're hoping for is people sharing, and recruitment posts very often get shared, good news stories get shared, and sometimes people do ask people, please share, because it's important, a recruitment, for example, but definitely, yeah, share is what you're aiming for.
Thank you. So I'd like to hear your observation of lessons learned on business risk or risk exposure at large that social media presents with respect to 1, individual or company data protection, and 2, intellectual property.
Wow, okay. So it's because you're on social media, you're exposed to sort of criticism in that sense. Is that what I'm getting from there, Kirsty?
I'm not quite sure.
Oh, here.
It's chamber. If you want
here, yeah. I would like to hear say a lesson learned on business risk or risk exposure at large, so the media response individual. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I get it now. Now I see it. Yes, there is a risk. The more you put yourself out there, the more potential negative things can come up. And I think what is needed in a lot of organizations, I mean, years ago, we did a session for the proper use of social media to an oil and gas business, because one employee broke his ankle and had the urge, I don't understand those people, but had the urge to take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and tagged the business name in that picture of a broken ankle. Horrible. That's a risk associated with the business. And they brought me in to do a session to 200 people to say, you know, don't think you're just communicating with your friends and family by sharing this on Instagram. Anyone can see that, because your Instagram account is open, your Twitter account is open. If you mention the business, that can be associated with it. So I totally think, and that's where social media policies need to come in as well. Every business should, and hopefully have, a social media policy where it's quite clear to employees, you know, we understand you're going to use social media, and we're using social media to promote the business and all that sort of stuff. We'll love if you share our stuff, but keep in mind, if you're involved in politics or religion or football, and your name is associated with your tweets or that can have a negative impact on your business. So I think that's probably and I hear that a lot indeed. There is a risk, and I think that's a training session for employees. You know, here are the guidelines, and the guidelines are quite clear in the social media policy. This is allowed, this is not allowed, and if you're doing something that's not allowed, we're going to have a conversation, and that needs to be clear to people, because indeed employees are using social media.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, it's something they actually teach in schools nowadays, that young people have to be careful about what they're posting, because future employers can look at these platforms, can't they, to see that record of what they've maybe been up to. So yeah, it's something everybody's got to be careful of, and also that reputational side that you were mentioning.
Absolutely. I mean, I find it amazing sometimes what people post on Facebook. And Twitter sometimes, thinking, really, do you want to share that with I mean, common sense has to come in and everything, but especially in a business environment, you know, if you have hundreds of employees that are obviously using social media, it needs to be clear. If you on your Twitter account say that you work there, you know, your tweets can have a damaging impact on the business, and people lost their job because of something they posted on social media. So use it with common sense, but also use it safely in that sense. And that's a training session.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And here's another good one. How do you figure out the best time to post on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram? And is that different now we're in lockdown?
The best thing to post on LinkedIn, you mean, and Twitter?
The best time?
Oh, time. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes. That has changed indeed. That's a very good question, actually. And normally, before the whole coronavirus, Facebook, for example, B2C, best time to post between 8 and 10 in the evening. People watching television, something on television, they have the not the laptop, the tablet on the lap, and they're on Facebook and they're sharing something that they're seeing on television. So Facebook traditionally would be sort of evenings. LinkedIn, funny enough, I noticed a big difference before the whole coronavirus. If I posted something over the weekends, I got a lot more engagements than during the week. But that has changed because people are at home. So it's the same with email marketing, you know, don't send out an email newsletter on Monday, send it out on late Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, and not on Friday afternoon. But again, things have changed because of the coronavirus. The best advice I can give you, and I actually mentioned that in the slides as well, look at the data. Look at the data that's coming back. And I think that's still something that a lot of businesses don't use. Post something because of the sake of it, and then not looking at the data that's coming back. Every social media platform gives you data about how many people you have reached, how many people have engaged with that, and then you can see a trend. And definitely because of the whole coronavirus, timing of post has changed indeed. But looking at data, see what sort of impact it had.
Thank you. Rennie, there's quite a few other questions, but I'm conscious of time, and everybody's name is on the question on the chat forum, so I don't know if you want to reach out now that you've spoken to most people on LinkedIn. And we'll share your details afterwards, just for those questions that we didn't have time to come to, if that's okay.
Yeah, can I just answer one more question? I see it's better
Sure.
to have no social profile than a neglected one. I feel very strongly about it, yes. I always say that, you know, it's better to be on 2 platforms but do them really well than being on 9 platforms and you don't have the time to manage 9 platforms unless unless you have a whole. I mean, I did a session for KLM, you saw that in one of the slides. They showed me around their social media department, 140 people working on desks with 4 screens. Then you can be on all the platforms they are. If you don't have 140 people working with 4 screens, then you need to dedicate which platform are my customers hanging out. Be on those platforms. If your audience is not on Instagram, why be on Instagram? If your audience is not on Twitter, why? An out-of-date Twitter account does much more harm than good in that sense. And don't spread yourself too thin. Do 2 or 3, but do them really well.
Brilliant, thank you. That's a great top tip to finish on. So thank you so much for your time, Rennie. That was absolutely amazing session. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it on the call. We will share the recording, we'll share the slides, and I know Rennie and we can go back to the people that have asked some questions we never quite got to. So thank you so much for joining us today. You'll see on our webpage and on our Twitter and LinkedIn, hopefully, we've got all our events. We've got a series of webinars over the month of June, so hopefully you can join us for some future sessions. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you very much. See you on social.
Thank you very much.